Hello, my dear friends. Today we are going to talk about one of the most powerful and most feared men in modern history. His name was Adolf Hitler. His story is not a happy one, but it is one we must learn from, because it teaches us how power can rise from anger and how hate can destroy nations and lives. Adolf Hitler led Germany through some of its darkest years. He began as a poor young man with dreams, became a leader with millions of followers, and ended his life surrounded by destruction and death. But his story is also a lesson for the world, a reminder that when fear and hatred grow, humanity suffers. In this story, we will walk through the life of Adolf Hitler, his childhood, his rise to power, his control over Germany, the terrible events of the Second World War, and finally, his fall. Now let's begin. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20th, 1889, in a small town called Braunau am Inn, in Austria. His father, Alois Hitler, was a strict customs officer. His mother, Clara, was gentle and kind. As a child, Adolf was quiet and sensitive. He loved drawing and dreamed of becoming an artist. But his father wanted him to work for the government, not to paint. This difference caused many fights in their home. When Adolf was 13, his father died suddenly. He felt both sad and strangely free. A few years later, his beloved mother also died of illness. That loss broke him deeply. He tried to enter the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna to study painting, but he was rejected twice. He had no job, no family, and no money. For several years, he lived in poor hostels, selling small drawings and postcards to survive. During this time, he also began reading books about German nationalism, the belief that Germans were superior to other races. Slowly, his anger toward life turned into blame. He started to blame certain groups, especially Jewish people, for his failures and for the troubles of society. This was the beginning of the dark ideas that would later shape his future. In 1914, the First World War began. Hitler, who was 25 years old, joined the German army as a soldier. He found purpose there. He served bravely, delivering messages between dangerous areas, and was awarded 2 medals for courage. But the war was terrible. Millions of soldiers died, and Germany eventually lost. When the war ended in 1918, Hitler was devastated. He was in a hospital recovering from an injury when he heard that Germany had surrendered. He later said that moment was the worst day of my life. The German people were angry and hungry. Their economy was destroyed. The Treaty of Versailles, which ended the war, forced Germany to pay huge reparations and give up land. Many Germans felt humiliated. Hitler shared their pain, but his anger grew into hatred. He decided to dedicate his life to restoring Germany's pride and power. He didn't return to painting. He turned to politics, and soon his ability to speak with passion and anger would give him dangerous influence. After the war, Germany was full of political chaos. People were hungry, unemployed, and searching for hope. In this environment, many small political groups were formed. In 1919, Hitler joined one of them, the German Workers' Party. He quickly became one of its most active members. He could speak with strong emotion and convince people easily. Crowds began to gather wherever he spoke. His voice was powerful, his words emotional. He promised to make Germany great again, to bring jobs, food, and order. He told people that Germany's problems were caused by traitors and foreigners. He blamed the Jewish community, foreign powers, and the Treaty of Versailles. His speeches filled people with both hope and anger. In 1920, the group changed its name to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or simply the Nazi Party. Its symbol became the swastika, an ancient sign that Hitler turned into a political emblem. By 1921, Hitler became the party's leader. He began organizing rallies, printing propaganda, and spreading his message through newspapers and posters. His dream was to take over Germany, not through votes yet, but through force. In 1923, he tried to overthrow the government in Munich. This event became known as the Beer Hall Putsch. It failed, and Hitler was arrested. He was sent to prison for 9 months, but even in prison, he continued to dream of power. During that time, he wrote a book called Mein Kampf, My Struggle. In it, he described his ideas about race, politics, and the future of Germany. He wrote that Germany needed a strong leader. He also repeated his dangerous belief that Jewish people were the enemy. This book became the foundation of his future movement. When Hitler was released from prison in 1924, Germany was still in crisis. The economy was collapsing. People lost jobs, homes, and hope. The Nazi Party began to grow again. Hitler changed his strategy. Instead of violent rebellion, he would rise to power through elections. He promised to rebuild the economy, create jobs, and restore pride to Germany. His speeches were full of passion and emotion. He presented himself as a man of the people, someone who understood their suffering. By 1930, the Nazi Party had become one of the largest in Germany. Hitler's image appeared everywhere, on posters, newspapers, and radios. He used fear and hope together, fear of enemies and hope for change. In 1932, he ran for president but lost to Paul von Hindenburg. Still, his party won millions of votes. The following year, in 1933, political leaders decided to make Hitler Chancellor of Germany, thinking they could control him. But they were wrong. Once in power, Hitler acted fast. He banned other political parties. He censored the press. He built secret police forces, the Gestapo and the SS, to control and intimidate people. Soon, Germany became a dictatorship, a country ruled by one man. Hitler began to shape the nation according to his ideas. He told Germans they were a superior race, the Aryans. He began to prepare for war. The people cheered him, believing he would save their nation. But behind his rise was a darkness that would soon cover the world. Once Hitler became chancellor in 1933, he wanted total control over Germany. A few months later, the parliament building, the Reichstag, caught fire. Hitler used this event as an excuse to destroy democracy. He said the fire was the work of his enemies and asked for special powers to protect the country. The German parliament passed the Enabling Act, giving him full authority to make laws without anyone's approval. That moment turned Germany into a dictatorship. He demanded absolute loyalty. The Nazi Party became the only political party allowed in Germany. All newspapers, schools, and radios were controlled by the government. Children were taught to honor Hitler like a hero. He used powerful propaganda, posters, speeches, films, to shape how people thought. Millions believed in him completely. But he also used fear. Those who spoke against him were arrested or disappeared. Jewish people, disabled people, and others were slowly excluded from public life. In 1935, the Nuremberg laws removed citizenship from Jewish people and banned them from many jobs. Germany's economy improved, and many people thought Hitler was saving their nation. But beneath that progress grew something very dark. A system built on hate and control. Hitler's ambitions did not stop inside Germany. He wanted to rebuild a great empire. He began to ignore international rules and expanded his army. In 1938, he took over Austria, calling it the Union of German People. Later that year, he demanded part of Czechoslovakia, saying Germans there needed protection. European leaders, hoping to avoid another war, allowed him to take it. But Hitler wanted more. On September 1st, 1939, German troops invaded Poland. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. That was the start of World War II. In the first years, Hitler's army, the Wehrmacht, seemed unstoppable. They used fast attacks called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. They conquered Poland, Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. By 1940, almost all of Western Europe was under Nazi control. Hitler believed he could also defeat Britain, but the Royal Air Force fought bravely in the Battle of Britain and stopped him. It was his first major defeat. Then, in 1941, he made a terrible mistake. He invaded the Soviet Union, breaking a peace agreement. At first, his armies advanced quickly, but the Russian winter was brutal. Soldiers froze, starved, and died. Meanwhile, in December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, bringing the United States into the war. Now Hitler faced enemies on all sides: Britain, America, and the Soviet Union. The tide of war was slowly turning. As Hitler fought his wars, he also carried out one of the greatest horrors in human history, the Holocaust. He had long believed that Jewish people and other groups were inferior. During the war, he ordered their mass removal and destruction. Jews were forced from their homes, their businesses destroyed. They were sent to crowded ghettos, then to concentration camps, places like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Dachau. There, millions were murdered in gas chambers or worked to death. It was systematic, cold, and planned. Historians estimate that 6 million Jewish people were killed, along with millions of others: Romani people, disabled individuals, political prisoners, and anyone who opposed the Nazis. This genocide shocked the world forever. It remains a symbol of how hatred, if not stopped, can destroy humanity itself. Even as the killings continued, Hitler still believed he could win the war. But the Allied armies were closing in from every direction. By 1944, Germany was losing fast. The Allies landed in France on D-Day, June 6, 1944, and began pushing the German army back. In the east, the Soviet Union advanced toward Berlin. Inside Germany, many of Hitler's generals knew the war was lost. Some even tried to remove him from power. One officer placed a bomb in his meeting room in July 1944, but Hitler survived. Still, his empire was collapsing. Cities were destroyed, and millions of civilians were dead. Food was running out. In April 1945, Soviet troops surrounded Berlin. Hitler refused to leave the city. He hid in an underground bunker beneath the government buildings with a few close followers. There, on April 30th, 1945, he took his own life. A week later, Germany surrendered. The war in Europe was over. When it ended, more than 60 million people had died worldwide. Germany lay in ruins, and the world began to understand the full scale of Hitler's crimes. His rise and fall showed how dangerous hatred and unchecked power can be. My friends, the story of Adolf Hitler is a story of destruction. but it is also a warning. He rose because people were angry, hopeless, and afraid. He promised pride and order, and they believed him. But he used that trust to spread fear, division, and war. We must remember that real leadership is not built on hate. It is built on truth, compassion, and respect. When a society follows lies or blames others for its pain, it loses its humanity. History teaches us that silence helps evil grow. It is our responsibility to speak for peace, for equality, and for justice.